recently, with the collapse of banks in the United States, the temporary depeg of USDC, the collapse of FTX, and concerns around crypto regulation, new focus has been on which DeFi projects are actually decentralized. In today's video, I'll talk about 5 cryptos that are putting the D back in DeFi. Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. As always, this video is for educational purposes only, not financial advice. Although I'll talk about a number of cryptos in this video, I'm not suggesting that you do or do not buy any of them. Now, let's get into it. Next, I want to share that this video is sponsored by Nested. Nested is a really cool app that I use myself to build a crypto portfolio and then easily buy in one click. You can also share crypto portfolios. So I put all 5 coins that I talk about in this video into one portfolio. And if you do your own research and decide you're interested in all 5, you can buy all of them with one click at the portfolio that I link down in the description. A couple of quick caveats in the video. First is that although all of these projects are making efforts to make DeFi more decentralized, none of them are perfect. There are still failure points, and it's a work in progress with the entire industry to get towards being truly decentralized. The second caveat is that all of these projects are on Ethereum. There are a number of other great projects that I would have loved to highlight, but they're not on Ethereum. And since I wanted to make this an Ethereum specific video, I couldn't talk about them. But some of those projects, like Akash Network, for example, I may highlight in a future video. The first project that I want to highlight today is Liquity. Liquity is a decentralized stablecoin that addresses a few existing or potential issues with the current selection of popular stablecoins. So before we get into the details of Liquity, it should come as no surprise that decentralized stablecoins are important when we are still recovering from the aftermath of USDC depegging below 90 cents. However, one thing that's crucial is that USDC is centralized. USDC reserves are held in traditional banks, but many stablecoins that claimed to be decentralized, DAI for example, also depegged significantly the other day. And a large part of the reason why that was is that a significant percentage of DAI reserves are actually themselves USDC. So Liquity solves this because Liquity reserves are over collateralized and they are 100% ETH. So basically it's a stablecoin that is entirely backed by ETH. And since ETH is one of the most decentralized assets, that by virtue makes the collateral of the stablecoin decentralized, which means that the stablecoin itself is decentralized. Additionally, the LUSD and Liquity protocol, LUSD is their stablecoin, are set up to be resistant to all kinds of censorship. In one way they do that, and I think this is what really stood out to me as being a really, really strong commitment to decentralization, is that the team behind Liquity doesn't operate their own front end. In fact, there's a whole bunch of front ends that you can use. So you can see here, they have decentralized front ends and there's a whole bunch of different ones you can use yourself, but the team doesn't have any one Liquity front end that they themselves run. And the benefit of that is that the smart contracts are on Ethereum. They can't be shut down unless you shut down Ethereum itself. So what would a potential regulator censor try to do? They would go after the front end, but there is no one front end, right? There's a dozen front ends here. So you'd have to go after all of them. However, one thing that I do want to warn people of is that the Liquity token has gone up considerably over the past month and especially over the past week for these very reasons that I've talked about. So even though it's dipped a bit from its peak earlier today, know that anyone buying now, and I'm buying now as well, but anyone buying now is buying at an already increased price. The next protocol that is making DeFi more decentralized is Rocket Pool. Rocket Pool is an Ethereum liquid staking service, and if you recall, many of the regulatory attacks recently have actually come at staking. They've gone after centralized exchanges that provide staking services, and there were even concerns that they would go after liquid staking derivatives. However, Rocket Pool has taken a number of measures to be a decentralized Ethereum staking protocol, and in theory, this should make them more resilient long-term towards this sort of regulation. So they differentiate themselves from other staking services in a few ways. First is that they are permissionless. Anyone can join the Rocket Pool decentralized node operator network. You can stake with only 16 ETH, so you don't need 32 ETH because that's a lot of money for most people. And they offer a decentralized network of node operators, and they are totally non-custodial. So node operators do not handle funds at all. And they use something called smart nodes, which incorporates their custom node software so that any user, business, or group can run a node on their network. And put more succinctly, this is an article from their Medium, they're building a base layer protocol for decentralized and trustless Ethereum staking. So it's not just a single app, it's a base layer protocol to democratize staking and allow anyone to stake on Ethereum. The next project that's making DeFi more decentralized is an old favorite of this channel, and that is Curve Finance. Curve Finance is one of the largest DEXs by volume and is the largest by total value locked, or deposits, if you will. Curve Finance has over $4 billion of liquidity deposited in it if we look at DeFi Llama. And Curve, if you've never used it before, you're not familiar, is primarily used for swapping between different stablecoins or between different versions of the same token. So for example, you might use it to swap from USDT to USDC, or from wrapped ETH to STETH, or from wrapped BTC to HBTC. So basically, most of the time when you're using Curve, you're swapping between like assets. And as we saw with USDC over the past weekend, there's quite a large need for liquidity and low slippage on those sorts of assets. But what's really interesting for the purposes of this video is Curve's strong focus on decentralization and community-run governance. If we go to their governance page, we can see very quickly that they have a vibrant landscape of proposals, of gauge votes, and generally of community participation in governance. And unlike many other DeFi projects, the Curve token holders, that's the CRV token, actually have a direct stake in the protocol, where if they lock their tokens, they do receive a portion of protocol fees. What's more, soon Curve is actually launching their own stablecoin, Curve USD, to compete with the other decentralized stablecoin options. The next project, which is making DeFi more decentralized, might be an unconventional choice, but that is actually Gitcoin. Gitcoin is a platform for raising funds through something known as quadratic funding in a decentralized manner. And I think this is really powerful because if you look at part of the reason why so many DeFi projects have become centralized over time, a lot of it is because they were started through a large amount of VC funding. And I totally understand why founders do that, and I don't have a moral problem with founders taking VC money. You have to raise money somehow. However, if you want a truly decentralized ecosystem, you need to have public open source infrastructure that isn't owned by any one or small group of individuals. And Gitcoin grants and Gitcoin's quadratic funding model allows people to raise money for that sort of infrastructure without needing to go to these sorts of venture capitalists or private investors who expect them to retain equity so that way they can eventually make back money from the investment, right? You know, if you're investing money, you expect to make money back, but if you're giving it as a grant, then you can give it towards public open source infrastructure. So I think what Gitcoin is doing is really, really important to the industry, and they actually do have a token. So many people don't know that, but Gitcoin does have their own token. The fifth and final project I'll highlight today that makes DeFi more decentralized actually attacks a different centralization choke point, and that is GPU rendering. Any sort of game or AI-based crypto that has to incorporate some sort of GPU rendering. However, traditionally, much of that was done on centralized cloud services, and that is Render Token. Render Token is doing some very interesting things as far as creating a distributed network for GPU rendering on the blockchain. And although I think this is very important to creating decentralized crypto projects, they actually already have a number of clients that are not crypto projects at all. They just simply want to tap into the Render network's GPU computing capabilities. If you look into the team, they have an all-star team and all-star advisors. Just to highlight a few of them, you have Ari Emanuel, founder of a major talent agency. You have JJ Abrams. You have Brandon Ike, founder and CEO at Brave. And you have Mike Winkleman, more commonly known as Beeple, among others. You have people who are willing to pay for GPU rendering, and then you have other people who have maybe unused GPUs or their computers sitting idle for a large portion of the day. And so then those people who are willing to pay can pay those people who have idle GPUs to do computing for them. If you want to buy all of the tokens that I mentioned in today's video, you can do so on the Ethereum network using the Nested app. Link to the exact portfolio with these tokens down in the description. And that's all for today. Let me know down in the comments which other projects you think are advancing decentralization. If If you want more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.